Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depending on where you're tuning in from, thank you. This is Darcy Butkus, also known as Inspector Bark. Joining me today is my co-host, Kathy Terraconi, which rhymes with macaroni. And she has been an on-air personality for 10 years. She's a partner, a Picture a Moment, Pet Productions, and
Hi,
she's a
Good
pet
morning.
media production company which produces, directs, and co-hosts animal-related live shows.
Oh, good morning, everyone. I'm very, very happy to be here. This is the launch of the show. And actually, my background is in production of live shows, but I also have 55 years, I'm showing my age now, 55 years of dogs getting involved in animal welfare. So today we're really, really happy to be able to host this show and produce the show. Darcy has been an integral part in helping some of the organizations that we've been working with to identify, validate, and document those rescues and those organizations that have had a really, really difficult time with understanding that dog abuse really is a real bad situation. So I know, Darcy, that this show is real special to you. And who do we have on the show today?
Kathy, I'm getting, so Kathy, I'm just hearing a repeat. I don't know if it's on my end or your end.
No, you're probably getting feedback. I'm not sure why that's happening.
Okay, let me try this.
Yeah.
Okay. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear. I think you might have your settings wrong.
It was fine the other day.
Yeah. Okay, you might want to, well, you know what? Let's bring Karen in, okay?
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's bring Karen in. And Karen, I know that you've had difficulty with some rescues, and you want to keep yourself anonymous. Would you be so kind as to introduce yourself and tell us what your organization is about and what you do?
Good morning. My name is Karen Less, and obviously I am protecting my identity at this point. I'm unfortunately or fortunately involved in multiple court cases surrounding unethical rescues. I am a communication specialist, a language analyst, and I'm here today to talk about the way that unethical rescues use language or how they talk in an effort to improve public safety.
Okay, so today's show is about unethical rescue talk, and that is part one. And like we said, this is Karen Less, communication specialist. She's got a great background. But Karen, let's ask you now, there's a topic about biased opinions about rescues, and I know you've had some, and you've also had your own personal experience with unethical rescues. Can you share with us on that?
Absolutely. One of the things that became obvious to me as I was experiencing issues with an unethical rescue was the bias that I personally brought to the situation. And I began to observe other people having the same biases. One of those aspects of bias is implicit bias. We have an unconscious association or belief, attitude towards a social group. And so we tend to think animal rescuers are good and trustworthy. We're coming to the situation with a preconceived notion. I was most certainly one of those people. And unfortunately, we have another type of bias, which is called a confirmation bias. And these are all ways of thinking that are very natural to us. We seek out information that confirms our pre-existing ideas, and we tend to even ignore contrary information. So because we are entering this situation thinking rescues are good and altruistic, we are not prepared for when they may not be that way. And I believe we need to, for public safety, change our thinking to suspicious until proven good. My personal experience involved multiple unethical rescues to the point where I was seeing a pattern in the state of Alaska and beyond. And I reached out to Darcy and her investigation company and asked her to assist me in getting intel because I was so concerned about others. I found out I was not alone in experiencing this. My family was not alone. And in fact, there was another couple in our state in a lawsuit who had experienced almost the exact thing we had experienced with the same rescue. So that was an eye opener. It was a call to fire, essentially. So,
Oh.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, okay, yeah, I was just agreeing with you. Darcy, are you able to hear a little better now? No, we can't hear you at all, Darcy.
I hear everything.
Okay, now talk again.
I can hear everything, but it's echoing.
Okay, so
can you hear me now?
Yeah, you probably, we can hear you. You just have your settings on wrong. Listen, folks, this is our first time launching this show, so we've got a little bit of microphone issues, and you've all done that before when you watch live. That it is what it is. So we'll work through it. And but Karen is our main guest, so we're going to be listening to her. We're not going to be doing too much talking. So okay, Karen, now you've had this experience,
Yeah,
and it left you in such a state that you felt that you needed to contact Darcy, and Darcy then stepped up and take us into the next step. What happened then?
well, and again, initially I thought it was a singular experience, but it kept bothering me that it was so slick. In other words, we had been conned, and the conning was so incredibly slick that it bothered me. It bothered me to the point where I began to search these people, this unethical rescues, names of board members under different names, their aliases. And lo and behold, what did I find? I found a case where another couple was suing, and they had had a very similar experience to ours. So I started to analyze the situation, and then I eventually reached out to Darcy because, again, I wanted more background on unethical rescues and also this rescue in particular. But my thinking is what bothered me. I'm a professional person. I have multiple graduate degrees, and I was completely buffaloed by this
Right.
reputation. And so I wanted to think about how they did that. One of the ways that they do this has absolutely nothing to do with them. It's really what we're bringing to the situation. First of all, we're way too trusting. We are framing and making decisions based upon the way information is presented. So the way these folks present their rescue on social media and that type of thing, or the way they talk about it as being so philanthropic, as in good, giving, caring, sets the stage for our brain to believe them, unfortunately. And the unethical rescues are absolute masters at spinning sob stories. And here's what's bad about that. Our brain has a thinking process called a narrative fallacy, and we love stories. We will believe a story over mere facts over and over and over again because our brain loves that. And in fact, our brain loves a story that has a difficult path.
Right.
So when these folks put the sob stories on social media, or they begin to spin a story to us related to why we need to save these animals through their rescue, adopt, or foster them, we are conditioned naturally to go along with that. And it's almost impossible for us not to buy into it. And that's very dangerous. The next section that I wanted to talk about is how do con artists and hoarders talk?
Okay.
So many of the unethical rescues are using language that is consistent with being a con artist or being a hoarder. And I will talk about both of those areas. So, what do con artists do? Well, number one, they identify a victim. But the
Okay.
problem with coming to an animal rescue that may be unethical is that we're already identifying ourselves as the victims. So we're coming to them. So they already know what we want. We want a pet. So two areas of spinning a con are already met so easily just by their advertising. So we're walking into this situation. Our brains are programmed to accept what they're saying without question because we have a bias toward them being good instead of us being suspicious, which is what we should be until they're proven good. We've already set the stage. We have two areas of their con completed for them just by our presence. So the third area is how do they play or create empathy? And again, that's that narrative fallacy where they give us a sob story about an animal or they pressure us related to the impending euthanasia of the animal or some negative consequence to the animal unless we act. So this is a very, very heavy level of persuasion, which is our fourth area. So unfortunately, they have to do very little to persuade us. We are doing most of the persuading ourselves. We buy into these stories. Our brains are programmed. We got a sob story. They don't even have to take it very far because we already want a pet. So they've already identified what we want. It's a cycle that is very easy for a con artist to play in. Okay, and now the next part is called a scheme. So what sort of tale are they going to spin in order to get us to sign a fostering contract or an adoption contract? This may be very involved, and they may actually say that they have had other people never object to their contracts, etc. And they will use examples to get us to align with what they want us to do with these contracts. The evidence they provide, which is our following area, could be statements like you will have companionship, you will feel so good rescuing this disabled dog. These are the benefits to you. You're a caring, giving person. You're doing something about the problem.
Right. Right. And also I don't mean to interrupt, but you had talked about before in our practice that there's triggers that they use, like triggers for if you don't get this dog, there's going to be scheduled for euthanasia. And they also do the nice thing about you. If you do get this dog, it's going to be a great companion and you need this dog in your life.
Right. Absolutely. And we'll go into that a little bit further. But yes, that's one of the biggest threats is the consequence of not adopting or fostering is going to be euthanasia. And sometimes we are in a position already where we're recognizing that the rescue organization is not clean or good or whatever. And now we're wanting to save this animal.
Yes, right. Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Save it from the very place we have gotten involved with. When it finally looks dicey for us, so at a point with an unethical rescue, most of the time there is a line of demarcation when it finally looks dicey. And you would think that we would be able to pull away from that, but that really, again, just is not the case because we are already becoming emotionally attached to this animal, whether we've even seen the animal or not. We're becoming invested.
Let me ask you something here, Karen. Now, is it fair to say that we as dog lovers, when we want to go and get a dog, we overlook what the rescue is actually all about and what their process is and how they do things because we're so focused on that we want to save that animal, we lose sight of what the rescue is really doing.
That's exactly what the confirmation bias is. We are losing sight. And in fact, we're even seeing red flags and we're dismissing them because we are so focused on saving.
Bingo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so again, once we are hooked, we are so emotionally, physically, and sometimes financially invested. The rescue has to do very little to persuade us related to our motivation and attachment for this animal. And that, again, that puts the public at risk if they are unethical. When we finally figure out something has not gone right with this, something has been done to us that just is not consistent with the way an animal rescue should be run. There's something wrong. We were asked for too much information. We were treated disrespectfully. Something has happened that isn't consistent with the way we thought rescues should be run. We are confused and we don't understand exactly what has happened and why. So we're very much in a state of confusion. And here is the final area that makes this such a very risky situation. We are naturally likely to keep quiet about it, especially if the unethical rescue has details of our finance or background that can be used for a blackmailing situation. We also don't want negative consequences for the animal. So we are swallowing inappropriate behavior because now we have this emotional connection to this animal we may not have ever even seen in person. We're wanting to save the animal. These unethical rescues don't pick on bad people. They pick on great people. They pick on people who have a big heart and the type of people that they can frankly con. And that's the saddest part of this situation. We have good people going to these rescues, not realizing that they're actually at risk.
And you know, when you talk about they're going to rescues that are at risk, I think to myself, how many times have I read reviews about rescues after the fact, after they've already adopted? You can't communicate with them, you can't get answers on issues, you can't find out whether there were vaccinations, things like that, because once that dog is out of sight, they're done.
Yes. And that yes, and sometimes they're done well before that.
Yeah.
And that really is that's a concern. So let's look at some of the red flags related
Great.
to their communication, because there will be clues that this rescue is not a good rescue. One of the things we need to begin to think about is not so much what the rescues say, but why they are saying something. We need to look at their intent. Why are they spinning such a sob story surrounding an animal? Why is that necessary? And why is it that other rescues don't do that? So we begin to think about, why are they doing that? And
Yeah,
then
why is that? Why? What's the purpose?
exactly. So the purpose obviously is to suck us in even further for that emotional attachment. It surrounds emotional leverage. At a point, these unethical rescues are going to start to do some emotional leveraging with these animals. And you can see it coming when you look at their advertising. The extreme sob stories where people are being emotionally manipulated, are those even necessary?
Yeah,
A
right.
true adopter, a true foster already has the motivation to take care of these animals. They're reaching out and making an effort to contact and seek out these rescues. So do they really need a sob story? The answer, in my opinion, is no. Maybe a little background, but not these elaborate sob stories. So that's major red flag number one. And some of the sob stories are very creative. Some of them revolve around abuse, which really triggers us emotionally to save these animals. Some, though, are far less obvious. A favorite is, why doesn't anyone want Toby?
Right. Yeah, he's so
Why?
cute, he's so wonderful. Why does it?
Yeah,
Yes, right.
yeah. And another that I have seen recently that was very alarming was the use of humor. Toby is such a bad boy. He gets into trouble constantly. There's no one out there, reverse psychology, who could possibly handle this dog. Reverse psychology. Talk about manipulation. They're looking to find people who are going to respond emotionally to be the savior of this animal. And they've just presented you with a reverse psychology situation.
Mm-hmm.
Very manipulative. So we need to be extremely beware of the narratives, because our brain is primed to accept these narratives and to do something about them. And so that can be very dangerous. And that takes our ability to think and analyze and make decisions, and it reduces it, because our emotional thinking is rising above our intellect at that point. We are not thinking clearly and analytically. We are emotional, and we are becoming attached to whatever animal they're presenting. So
wait, Darcy wants to ask something, Karen.
Go, Darcy.
Darcy?
Yeah. So what I'm okay, because what I'm hearing is a constant. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
See, I'm hearing myself, but I'm going to just talk over my own voice.
Okay.
I'm watching and reading the comments. I'm watching and reading the comments. And I love the fact that these people are very interested in this program. And we will talk about these rescues in the next episode. So, Kathy, if you can just sort of call out some of those people, thank them for coming on and listening. Do you see the comments, Kathy?
Yes. Yeah. I put all the comments up. Yeah. We want, thank you, Joy. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Coco. Oh, and we got Mindy here. Mindy says it's a money grab. These shady people play on your emotions. I've seen it firsthand. They keep the money. That's very true. And Shelly, hi, Shelly. Oh, Ron's here too. That's my brother, folks. And Mindy says, "Oh, Darcy, oh boy, I'm here for this. Hoarders in the rescue community, so manipulative these people are." I'm sorry you're having difficulty with your audio.
I might try and disconnect.
Yeah, disconnect and see if that'll be fine.
I'll come back on. Thank you.
Okay, bye. Okay, so she's absolutely right, and sorry to interrupt you on your presentation and everything here, Karen. What Darcy is really trying to say is that the people that are coming on the show right now, they've never been told that rescues are bad in the past. And this is the first time for them.
Absolutely. And Kathy, I was completely unaware of this situation up until about 2.5 years ago when it happened to me. And I was just astounded. I could not fathom that a rescue that appeared to be donating so much time and money to saving animals could actually be a hoarding institution and about conning people. It just didn't equate. So I certainly I can commiserate with people who have not been aware of this. I wanted to jump back to more of the red flags.
Okay.
So, another red flag. So we've talked about the sob stories, and those are really important. Take a good look at this. If you feel at all you are being emotionally manipulated by one of these sob stories, that is a red flag to step away from this organization. Do they have old or stock photos? That could mean there is not even an animal available. There are organizations that find photos, they advertise animals, they take up PayPal payments, and 5 minutes later, after they reach their $1,000 goal, everything comes down from the internet and all of the people's money is gone. And we're seeing that in Alaska.
Oh, I have to comment on this. How many times, folks, have we seen GoFundMe, please donate, this dog is sick, this dog needs help, but you never see the vet bills. You never get to see what's really happening. Why isn't the donation going to the vet directly? And if it is coming to that person, should put those vet bills up there so that people can see it. And then all of a sudden, that post is gone, and you don't know what happened to that dog. Where's the post? What happened to it? Well, they got the money that they needed. And then when you question about it, they never answer.
Right. And that the lack of transparency is also very much a red signal. It's something that we should be looking at. The disgruntled customer, the lack of transparency, many of those things are very concerning. Virtue signaling, believe it or not. So the rescue talks about how many animals it saves and how amazing they are and X, Y, and Z and all the good they're doing. Virtue signaling should be concerning. Good rescues really don't have to toot their own horn very much.
Oh, and the other thing, I'm so excited over this. They also say things like, we're the only ones in the community that can do this, because the other rescues, in their opinion, are not as good as they are, when in truth, all rescues are there for the same purpose, which is to help each other.
And that's a wonderful point you're bringing up, because when they identify themselves as the sole savior of animals,
yep,
that is a red flag that they are a hoarder.
Yep.
This is what hoarders do. They are the sole saviors of animals or whatever they're doing. So virtue signaling, saying that they're better than other people, that's a major red flag. And here's another one. So people often let this one fly under the radar, and they most certainly shouldn't. If they have a history, this rescue has a history of making statements, especially on social media or even in person, of people hate. People are disgusting. People are the problem with animals.
What an understatement. Darcy, your mic is off.
The problem with people hate statements is that people hate is a sign of hoarding. So many hoarders are finding emotional support and unconditional love in animals, and their collections have gotten too large. So they begin to manage their habit, their psychological issues, by opening a rescue, and they're begrudgingly, even though they hate humanity, maybe they have a close circle of friends who agree with them or whatever, but they certainly don't like people. They're begrudgingly adopting or fostering out this huge collection of animals. And this is not rescue. This is a hoarder managing a psychological issue. And what you will see is cruelty to people. So they will be, they may not be cruel to the animals, but they will be incredibly cruel to people who are there actually to save the animals themselves and adopt and foster them. So they have utterly no regard. They have a grudge against humanity, and they are using people merely to manage their habit. And that is very, very concerning. And so when you see a lot of arguments, disagreements,
backstabbing, mudslinging that goes against from rescue to rescue, if you see that type of rescue that's going to mudsling another rescue, is that a case where this is people hate?
Yes, it most certainly can be. And that's very dangerous, because you are looking at an example of what you will be treated like by this rescue as a customer.
Very good point. Very, very good point. So if they're backstabbing in the community and they're trying to discredit another rescue to others in the community, then think about how would they be treating the not only that, but how did they treat their own animals in their rescue? Although usually they're really, really good with the dogs, but they're not so good with the people.
Sometimes they're good with the animals and sometimes they aren't, but the hoarder is almost never good with the people. So if there are situations that, well, by virtue of hoarding, the Psychiatric Times says animals give unquestioning and uncritical love. And this is the major emotional connection that hoarders have, because they are incapable of interacting with humanity on a regular basis. So they're using
Karen, hold on just a second. I just want to address this. Hey, Spring, since this is our first, here's a piece of advice. You missed it. Why Karen is not on screen. Karen has chosen not to be on screen because she's involved with, well, you might want to explain why you're not on screen, Karen.
Sure. I am involved in multiple court cases as a witness and a victim, and therefore we are simply at this time protecting my identity.
Okay, there you go. Okay, hope that helps.
Yeah. So back to the signs of hoarding. So we want to look for comments related to them viewing themselves as the rescuer of suffering or unloved animals. Them solely as the rescuer of suffering or unloved animals. And you will see these comments throughout these unethical rescue pages that refer to this. So tooting your own horn and isolating yourself above others as the sole rescuer. Again, they don't like people. They have involvement typically in court cases. They have, even with no apology whatsoever, bullying, intimidation, threats on their websites, their Facebook pages. And it pays, if you're going to get involved with one of these rescues, to look back, scroll back through their history to see how they interact with the public. And many times the evidence is there, although we really don't want to see that. We're not being critical consumers. Hoarders, again, may resort to rescue conning to manage their disease of overcollection. And we are seeing quite a lot of that. And in fact, and a big hallmark of a hoarder is a lack of empathy. And this empathy will extend, lack of empathy, sympathy will extend to the animals. So they'll jerk animals out of good home settings with absolutely no remorse or concern for the animal's attachment to the people. And they will have zero concern for the people who have lost this animal. And in fact, they will turn around and typically speak abusively of the people they've removed an animal from. And they may attempt to besmirch their reputation publicly.
Yes. Excellent points. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
So, one of the, a few more of the red flags we should be looking for is, do their applications collect enough information that could be used for identity theft? I cannot encourage the public enough to avoid filling out random applications for organizations you do not have personal contact with. This is so dangerous, folks. I was the victim of identity theft surrounding applications for adoptive animals.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is, if you look at the applications that are typically up on places like Pet Finder, it takes very little to gain enough information for identity theft beyond those applications. So you really need to know to whom you are applying. You need to know them intimately to make sure they're trustworthy. If you do foster a dog and you find yourself in this position, which is very difficult, you may be fostering toward adopting.
Can I say something?
Yeah,
sure. Absolutely. Go ahead, Darcy.
Okay, so there is still a pause, but at least I unmuted myself. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Darcy, just go ahead and
I'm
talk.
just going to continue
to
mute myself because there is a double in my ear, but I'm going to continue to monitor the comments.
Okay. I'm sorry.
So what I want to say and jump on with what Karen is saying is that article is so important for people to read. The Great Animal Rescue or great scam. And she's highlighted a lot within that article. I think you have it available. Do you not, Kathy?
No, I don't.
So a lot of the things that we need to look for and the general public is so unaware of is what you mentioned earlier, the fact that they don't post the vet bills. That's very, to me, highly suspicious. There's a couple people that are posting over in the comments, and I'm really proud of these people. These, to me, are whistleblowers, and they work together to help expose the questionable rescue. And again, we will continue with the next episode about what we can do to help maybe educate the general public. Right. It is okay to ask questions. Within that article, it mentions that if you ask any question whatsoever and they block you or they get defensive, that's a red flag.
Absolutely.
A 501c3 is supposed to be transparent. Unfortunately, every Tom, Dick, and Harry can get a 501c3, and that's happening. And what I consider these fly-by-night rescues have found this to be a lucrative business in using the backs of these animals to profit off of. So we've got to stop them, expose them, but we need to go beyond that. We need to reach out to the local, state, and federal officials. And I know some people that are on here writing comments, it can be frustrating, people. Trust me, I know, and some of these people commenting, no. But persistence pays off.
Yes.
So I'm going to stop there. And,
okay, we understand.
And you two continue. Thank you.
Okay, you know, what we know, Darcy, is that when we do a live show, there's a lot of times that there are some audio problems. So we appreciate that you're going to be behind the scenes, so to speak, for the moment. But it is true. And before we go any further, Karen, let's look at some of the comments here, because some people are asking things about you. About you. Okay. They want to know, let me see here now. We've got Paulus, who says, hi, guys. And Sandra, she says, sharing to New York, not only shady rescues, but volunteers victim to these manipulations, all while dogs are suffering and dying. And Spring wants to know, Karen, do you have social media where we can follow what you're doing with rescue?
Yes, we do. We have a scamming page that started in Alaska and has actually expanded to be international.
Oh, fantastic. We'll put that, you want, actually, right after the show, I'll put that in the comments for everyone.
Right.
Okay, and then the next one is Paula wants to know, we need to make it much easier for adopters to report rescues in one location.
Agreed.
And then, and no updates. Yeah. Oh, right. No. Yeah. I know what James is talking about. No updates when it comes to GoFundMe or this dog is so sick and needs an operation and everything else. And you never get an update. And you really should. Why wouldn't you get an update? We don't get that. And then Mindy says, my ex-friend, a transporter, pays her bills with the PayPal donation. The rescue knew about it.
That's very common.
Yeah. And Sandra says, soul saviors of animals, red flag. Another one, Sandra, history of making statements of people hate, red flag.
Okay.
People hate a sign of hoarding. Wake up, New York, Long Island, Nassau County.
Excellent.
Okay. And then, yeah, we've got a lot of comments. We've got quite a few people watching too, which really great.
Yeah, she's right.
Yeah.
Right.
And there are legitimate reasons Karen is remaining anonymous. Listen to what she's saying. How much more credibility do you need? Save them all mentality, red flag. We are only ones who can help the dogs of this yellow New York wake up. And then how about aliases names? Can I get these signs in writing or is it published somewhere? Driving so cannot write it down. We'll get them to you, Joy. Okay, if you turn someone in for unethical, this is for you, Darcy, and I know you can't talk right now, but if you turn someone in for unethical treatment, cruelty, or whatever, you'll have people coming out of the woodwork to protect the offender. These people protect each other, which is so true. That is one of the big issues, and unethical rescues manage somehow to manipulate. They've got the trolls out there. They've got people that are writing all of these comments and trying to bash a good rescue. Which then all of a sudden, what happens? The good rescue backs up and says, "I don't need this. I don't need this." And if they're really strong, they come forward and they say, "I'm going to go ahead and I am going to move forward because it's for the sake of the dogs." If a good rescue loses that element of "I'm doing it for the dogs," then the bad rescue or the unethical rescue has won. So that should never happen, folks.
Exactly. The unethical rescue will do to a good rescue what they do to the public, and that should be observing. I wanted to get back to some of these other red flags that I think are very important. So, for instance, if we look at contracts for fostering or adopting dogs, we should most certainly be looking for clauses. We have an example in Alaska where there is a $2,400 clause in their contracts. They will also sue you for the legal costs of any court involvement, and they essentially can take the dog for any reason at any time. So there's a lot of trouble with this particular rescue, but people are terrified to speak up because the threat is they could take their animal at any time. And that's one of the things that, believe it or not, some people are defending these unethical rescues because they either get on the side of the unethical rescue or they risk having their animal taken. So those contracts are out there. The other thing we should be looking for is excuses for care. So, for instance, you adopt or foster a dog and you have an agreement that the rescue will pay for the food and the dog will get animal or veterinary care. And yet the rescue drags its feet and doesn't provide that or hassles the home where this animal is. Folks, when you enter a relationship with a rescue organization, we should be thinking about this as a marriage with an animal involved.
Right.
That's really how serious it is. And you need to know who you're marrying. Are you getting involved with an organization that is going to make your life miserable and not take care of this animal as they agreed? Are they going to besmirch your reputation and do bad things that they've done to other people? And to speak about the minions who come forward with these organizations, it's incredible to see 100 or more people come forward with some of these rescues, defending them when they are clearly engaging in unethical behavior. But we need to follow the money. Some rescues are making millions of dollars, people, on these nonprofits. They're
exactly. Yes. Oh, I love this show. You are so right, Karen.
Right. So the road to them in line and also differentiating good rescues simply is not to engage in these sorts of behaviors. If you are attacked and you are a good rescue, which can happen, believe me, sometimes you have a disgruntled customer or there's someone maybe who is just having problems and they try to ruin the reputation of your good rescue. This sort of list can help you differentiate. For instance, you can say, well, we have no history of hoarding. We have no history of any of this type of behavior. We have no history of having disgruntled customers. We have no history of besmirching people's reputation. Any of the things that I've named as red flags. Take a look at our ads. We don't do the major sob stories. We're not out to manipulate the public. We're there to work with people who genuinely want to adopt a dog or foster a dog, and we're not high pressuring them. So again, We look at these rescues to determine whether they're ethical or not. And we look for acts of pressuring, insulting, intimidation, threatening, berating, or otherwise engaging in disparage, slander, libel to someone's reputation. Are they in any way, in any manner, communicating with you in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable? If you
Right.
feel this way, for heaven's sake, do not invite these people to your property for a house inspection. They've just sized up your assets.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh wow, what a red flag that is. Oh jeez.
Absolutely. Do they somehow, do you fill out an application and they come back to you with the most intimate detail of your background history and finances? If they do
Wow.
this to you, you should be absolutely leery of this organization. That is not a typical practice. Most rescues are looking simply to make sure that a home is safe and appropriate for an animal. However, they are not going through extensive background checks and delving into your deep finances. If they do this, you should be very concerned that they may commit identity theft related to your application.
And you know, Karen, the good point is on this, I don't think anybody has ever really thought that a rescue would be involved in identity theft, but it happens all the time, especially if you buy online.
Oh,
All these people that buy online, and I think to myself, oh my gosh, are you serious? Because they never get the dog, and they've been scammed.
absolutely. Absolutely. There's so many different scams evolving during the COVID-19 pandemic. There are multiple articles out regarding number one, we are attempting to foster as the public, to foster and adopt more during this pandemic. And two, the scamming issue is becoming more creative and absolutely more prevalent. And it's not just in the United States, it's not just in Alaska and other states, it's around the world. The United Kingdom is seeing a surge of this activity, and they are trying to legislate related to it. And that brings me to another point. One of the things that we can do eventually is to get better legislation. And that legislation should be thought of as protecting the public from these rescue scams. But the legislation also protects the good rescues because the good rescues just aren't engaging in this behavior.
Right, right. You know, you had brought up another point too that I made a banner on, which is right along that same line. You said take caution about how these people are speaking and in what manner they're speaking that is consistent with empathy and compassion towards animals and people. If not, beware.
Absolutely. So maybe they sound compassionate towards animals, but you also need to determine whether they sound compassionate towards people. Think about it. The people coming to them are actually the ones saving the animals. It's really not the rescue. The rescue is the conduit. If
Right.
they don't think of themselves in terms of having long-term positive relations or interactions with people, then they're not really a rescue because the people who come to them are the ones who ultimately do the job.
Right, right, exactly. You know, Karen, hang on here a second. I want to read some of these comments. We have so many of them. Just wanted to bring some today. Let me see here now. Janelle says there are legitimate reasons. Oh, no, sorry, we already read that one. Okay, this is a good one. She writes, Psych 101, Marketing 101, lie, lie, lie. The brain can't keep up. And I think this is where you come in because Karen is a communication specialist. Mechanisms in the brain that discern the lie gets overloaded and we believe what they're saying as true. And how do we really know it's true?
We believe it because we want to believe that it's true. We have a bias toward believing it's true. And this is the difficulty. Animals are used for psychological manipulation, emotional leverage, and financial leverage. And
Yeah.
that is difficult to define. But once it's happened to you, you realize something that was not typical has occurred. And you just do not see this behavior with good rescues. Good rescues don't yank animals out of homes. They make transitions.
Right, right. And James, I will post the article. Darcy did give it to me. It's my mistake for not having it up right now. And Coco, I know you said we should have graphics and documents posted. Totally agree, my friend. First broadcast. Wait, we'll have it. Okay. And then Janelle says she is educating people about unethical rescues. What sort of credit? Oh, we don't need it. Okay. I see this in Texas as well. You were involved in helping to shut down a shady rescue here in the DFW. So thankful this is being addressed.
Oh.
Also, Joyce says, also, this info is not just for the general public. Southern shelters are always frantic to get as many animals out of their shelter before euthanasia as possible to go to northern rescues. And Coco says, oh yes, tribalism is strong. Some people are so deeply duped by their sociopaths. Sociopaths, that's the word.
Yes, it is.
That's the word. Right, Coco, right on. Yeah. And not to mention bad rescues who tell adopters that they will take the dog back if you ask questions. They will call police or to take back the dog because we have a contract.
Yeah.
And by the way, is that contract enforceable?
I have found that the contracts may or may not be enforceable, but these bad rescues sometimes will sue people. So if you see a history of lawsuits, be forewarned. What happens to another person will likely happen to you. You need to look at the history of the rescue you're getting involved with. You may have no idea the extent these folks will go to. Remember, they're probably making a lot of money on these animal rescues, and it's not going toward the animal. So it's going toward maybe their payment on their Lexus or something.
Okay. Also, Paula says, I agree, follow the money, because that is true. Some are making 1.4 million a year or more and give so many reasons they can't spay, neuter, or give animal shots and put it to the adopters. What is the adoption fee for? You know, yeah, totally agree. Let me see here now. And James says, thanks. Miami has become a nightmare. Sociopaths are narcissistic personality disorders.
Yes, they are.
Shelters here don't ever check adopters or rescues. Just get the dog out. Really.
Good.
And how do you get an animal back when a rescue steals them from your home? How do you check out the rescue history? Well, I'll tell you, that's where Darcy comes in, and she's excellent at it. I can tell you personally that we've used Darcy on 4 different occasions, and she has come through 100%. What I love about Darcy is she validates, verifies, and documents everything. It's not hearsay, folks. It's not just came off the top of your head. If you have valid information, then it becomes fact. And that's what she works on, is only facts.
Right.
And then here, I was a whistleblower. They've threatened to sue me, beat up, kill. That's another thing too, Karen.
Absolutely.
The bodily threats.
Oh, absolutely. Bodily threats, threats against your business, threats against your family. Personally, I had poison thrown in my backyard, and my daughter's therapy lab was killed.
Oh my gosh.
Horrifying problems can occur surrounding these so-called rescues. These are not, again, folks, these are not the typical people who run animal rescues. They could be drug involved. They can be involved in higher level crime. Their behavior is what tells you whether or not they're a safe organization to get involved with surrounding a dog or a cat. So,
okay, one question I have to ask you now, Karen, which I know that you, and I wish Darcy's her audio was working, because what do you do when good rescues are targeted as bad? Because the impact of social media, whether good or bad, is absolutely so destructive. You literally, your house is burned down. So what is it that what is it that, how do good rescues really protect themselves from the minutia of the bad rescues wanting to put them down? You know, they'll accuse them of things like, well, you're killing dogs, or they're transporting dogs that are ill, and they don't really know the facts, but they spew out this misinformation without really knowing the facts, and it picks up by others, and it just gets, it's like a snowball. It goes down and down, and before you know it, that rescue, their reputation is ruined, that their partnerships are ruined. And what really happens to the bad rescue? Nothing, because people believe them.
And in fact, the bad rescue becomes more lucrative. So again,
yes,
intent. One of the things that good rescues can do is to talk about something called rescue envy. So there are often envious situations between rescues that cause problems like this, where essentially they're trying to murder the reputation of the good rescue. Well, the good rescue can follow the guidelines that we've just talked about and demonstrate that they've never done any of the things that these other rescues are doing. So, for instance, they don't post the extreme sob stories. They don't have loophole contracts. They have absolutely no history of killing animals. Any accusation that is brought forth, I would encourage people to dispassionately respond to.
That's a very good point. You know, good rescues seem to always go for the good story. They always go for what happened to the dog and the success story. They know that they came from a difficult area, but let's look at where this dog is going to. I know transport is a really big thing, freedom flights. Look at this is a wonderful thing, because that rescue is helping them. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a rescue. Any organization that helps to transport animals to an area where they're wanted versus where they could be euthanized, that's a real win-win. Absolutely. But it's the good story that we're missing here with the good rescues.
That's the transparency. And the other thing that good rescues can do to derail the mentality.
And let me jump in. I'm going to jump in.
Okay. Go ahead, Darcy.
Reputable rescues put the animal's needs first. Animal needs first and foremost. And that's why the reputable rescues are not always posting on social media, because they're busy saving the animals and doing what is best for that animal. I'm reading these comments. Mindy Carr was a whistleblower, and she needs to come on a show at a later date to talk about her story. This was a longtime high school friend of hers that she blew the whistle on. And the threats that she got, I'm so glad to see her listening to the show. Sandra Valdez is another one that lives in the Rio Grande Valley in Texas. That will be another story for another day. We are going to continue on with episode after episode after episode, because there's so much to discuss. But I will go ahead and continue. You two continue on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good points, Darcy. So I was considering how to communicate with the minions and a rescue that's demonstrating rescue envy. And it all comes honestly back to intent. So if we begin to talk to these folks who have this psychological state of hoarding or conning, and we say, why are you trying to... Are you trying to gain more animals so you can make more money? Or that type of thing. If we begin to call these people, these minions and these organizations out on their intention, to question their intention for their behavior, it typically derails them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. We have a couple more things here now. Let's see now. Tamara says, don't even get me started on shelters. That clear the shelter is such a disservice to dogs. It's putting them in terrible situations. We're not talking shelters at this point, but you're absolutely right. The one I really love is we don't have enough space.
Right.
We don't have enough space, so we're going to have to euthanize. Wait a minute, I thought you were a
She is
no-kill
right.
a no-kill that you don't kill for space. So which is it? Either you do or you don't. Either you're kill or you're no-kill. And then Sandra says, and raising pledges as an incentive. Bad rescues take for the money.
Yes.
And Mindy says, all because they stood up for the dogs. Aren't we? Now, Mindy is the one that was like bashed and threatened. And Darcy was pointing out about her. All because they stood up for the dogs. Aren't we supposed to be on the same team? You would think so. The animals are just cattle, a product to be moved. Flipping. The product to be moved. They have no empathy and are two drug addicts and scammers. And here, Coco writes a great thing here. This conversation is so important. It's unfortunate that the bad rescues are so loud and bold in harming other rescues, and the good ones are left to be bullied.
Right.
We are concerned with the animals in our care, and we do not have the time or energy to respond to baseless accusations and smears.
Good
Now,
point.
he's talking about in his own backyard that things like that are happening right now. So thanks for bringing that up, Coco, and thanks for being forward and forthright and transparent. Okay, and Steve says, hi, Kathy. Sometimes we're called a bad rescue because we denied an application. Well, that's true, but if you have an application and you have the right to be able to do that, I think what Karen is really saying is that sometimes the application process is so detailed and it calls for unnecessary divulgement of information that people don't need. If you're rescuing an animal, you don't need to know the financial status of a person and all that. Okay, and then Mindy says minions. Perfect, Karen. Minions. Okay. All right. So anyway, we were talking about what rescues can do, what rescues can do that are good rescues. And so let's recap what we've just been talking about. What the communications that we have with rescues. If you can summarize, Karen, what we should do, maybe in just a checklist point, what to watch out for, and then we'll close the show.
We need to watch out for, again, old stock photos, major sob stories on their advertising. Unethical rescues are masters at manipulation, fortunately. We need to look for the intent of their communication. Look less at what they are saying and look more toward why they are saying it. We need to look for virtue signaling. That is a very alarming quality in any advertisement or interaction. We need to look for a history of people hate. Animals are good and people are terrible. That's a very serious red flag we should be watching for. We need to look at all contracts and interactions with other people to see if there are loopholes and disagreements. Major red flags. Major red flags. And we need to generally assess whether the communication has any quality that makes us uncomfortable. So, is there any degree of pressuring, insulting, intimidation, threatening, berating, or otherwise disparaging other people? If they've done it to other people, even done it to another rescue, they will do it to you. And that's the take-home message.
Okay, and I know that if Darcy was able to come on, two things she wanted to address. One was using a dog as emotional leverage. If a rescue does that, that's another super big red sign. And using dogs as financial pawns. They have been used. People are profiting on the backs of these dogs that really need homes. And if anything, if this show can start you thinking that there are solutions, there are ways to stop it, and we intend on trying to help Darcy with this show when she can talk. we intend on helping Darcy with this show so that she can help to get out to the public exactly what she does. She does it. Yeah, there's a delay, so she just heard what I said. So it's very important for us to realize that people like Karen, who have been through it and have the education and have the wherewithal and are willing to come forward and say, hey, we want to educate you. Let's do this. Let's work together. Okay, Darcy, now if there's a delay, you want to say something at the end here because we're just about ready to wrap up. Let's see if she can hear that now. Okay.
Well, I can tell you that I am just, you can hear me, right? I'm going to continue talking. I'm just so pleased with the amount of participation. I know that you promoted it, Kathy. I know I did. I sent it out by way of email blasts. We could do this on a daily basis and still not have enough time in the day. But I really appreciate our guest speaker, Karen. I thank you, Karen, for coming forward. I'd love to have you on every show. You did a fantastic job. And Kathy, my co-partner and hosting this, I thank you both so much. And I thank all our followers. And we're going to do this again. Hopefully, maybe next week, whatever you say, Kathy.
It'll probably be 2 weeks from now. And I'll tell you why. Because, folks, we're going to need your help on this. In 2 weeks from now, we are going to be having the part about what measures to take when you find an unethical rescue. Stay tuned for part 2. And what we're going to do in 2 weeks from now is promote about people coming to watch the show, because we are going to uncover some unethical rescues that are in Las Cruces, that are in Georgia, that are in other parts of the country. And when this happens, we're going to have people that are going to be coming on, and they're going to try to protect these unethical rescues. And we will need your support to say, hey, let them talk. Darcy has done some fabulous investigation, some fabulous research. And when we uncover these ethical rescues, many of them, well, not many of them, but a few of them that she'll be identifying have already received some convictions. So this will be something that we will broadcast and let you know. And again, based on fact, there will be no mudslinging. There will be no name, nothing that will be said so that somebody can come back. If one of the rescues that is identified comes forward and says that is untrue, then it will be on their, the burden will be on them to validate that what is being presented is untrue. So I can guarantee you that what we have is something that will be validated. Okay, and the last thing is, let's see here now, we got 2 more people. It's important for good rescues to stick together and get the message out. Couldn't agree more, Paula. If we all work together instead of working against each other, I don't understand why they want to work, but now you do understand. Karen made it very clear that these rescues that are unethical have a purpose. They have trolls, they have minions, they have people that are out there supporting them, so that it's I don't want to say it's only for financial, but it's because they want to be the top dog, that they're the only ones that can do it. And then people hate, name calling, lies with proof of statements, those kind of things. Yes. So join us in 2 weeks from today for our next show. And in the meantime, we will be promoting, and we would hope that you would help share with us for the next show. Okay. And anything else that you want to say now, Karen, before we leave?
Please join us on our Facebook page. It's a small page, and we haven't been going very long, but we are gaining momentum. Stop Animal Rescue Scams, Alaska and Beyond.
Okay, I will put the link in there as soon as the show is over. And also I'll put the link into that article that we were talking about. So thank you so much, everybody, for a wonderful, wonderful show. And we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Okay, bye.